Welcome to Business on the Vine. I'm your host, Lady Jen Plessis, and in this dynamic series, we dive into the challenges, breakthroughs, and victories of entrepreneurs who have turned their passion into success. Welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Business on the Vine. I'm your host, Lady Jen Plessis. And what a delight today I have to have someone whom we just met recently, but when we were on the phone, we were just like, blah, 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 blah. And then we wanted to meet each other last week, was it, or 2 weeks ago in LA, tried to do that while I was traveling, and that didn't turn out. It always, we always overestimate what we can do while we're traveling. And it's just great to be able to have her here on the show with me. So her name is Aurora Winter. Welcome, Aurora.
Great to be on the show with you, Lady Jen.
Yeah. So let me give you a brief description of what she's all about, but we're going to go a little deeper than that into some other areas that I think are really relevant in today's market, and she does too. So listen in, business owners. She combines the best of Silicon Valley with the best of Hollywood, using her expertise in film and neuroscience. She's probably gauging me right now. She helps people tell memorable stories that build brands, books, and business. I love that 3 Bs, right? Experts turn to her for words, or turn their words into wealth. And that's the name of her book as well, is turn words into wealth. And, she helps people increase their impact, increase their influence using the right words. And I'm so into this. A leader who is a powerful speaker has a huge advantage in marketing, sales, and advertising. So as business owners, we have that huge advantage. Through her books, her YouTube channel, and her one-to-one coaching, she trains people to create their own unique $1 million message. And who doesn't want a $1 million message? Raise your hand if you do, right? While you're driving, raise your hand. Right? She's a media strategist and is frequently featured in the media. She's the author of 10 books now, which I absolutely love, because I'm up there too. But sought after speaker. She's been on ABC, CBS. You've been doing a lot of things, but we'll stop talking about all that, because we're going to understand exactly who you are and what you do through this interview. So again, welcome to the show. It's a delight to have you.
It's great to be on the show with you, and I'm really looking forward to helping our listeners understand how to navigate this crazy changing period of AI so they can become the expert that AI quotes, not the one it replaces.
Yes, that's it. Well, that's it. That's a great question. And I don't know if I want to answer that. I don't know if I want to address that right now, but I do want to address it. So everybody help me remember, meaning just the two of us, right? We're going to remember. Uh, yeah, because there's some thought behind that, right? And I just have some questions about AI, but what is it? We're going to dive into your book. Are we okay if we just dive into your book completely?
Dive right into Turn
Okay.
Words into Wealth.
Yeah. Okay, so turn words into wealth. I love this. Now, and then the subtitle is 7 Ways to Make 7 Figures as a Thought Leader. So let's just address the elephant in the room. Everybody I talk to is like, are you a thought leader? Let's do influence. Let's do impact. And it's all about the return on impact, the return on influence. And as everyone knows who listens to this show, I'm all about the return on income, right? Not necessarily investment, it's just income, right? So I focus in that direction. And while I believe that we need this influence out in the world, the struggle for so many entrepreneurs is that all they have is some influence, not a
Mhm.
lot, but some. And maybe they're celebrities to their own clients, the few they have, or the many that they have, right? But it just doesn't seem to turn into wealth for everybody. So I want to start at the height of this is why is this not turning into wealth for everybody? Because everyone has a speaking coach, everyone has a message and branding coach. Why is this not working? Let's just go for the 30,000 foot
Well,
view.
if we're going to go for the 30,000 foot, then I want to start by saying, as entrepreneurs or business owners, we
Yes.
solve problems at a profit.
Yes.
And if you're not making enough profit, you're not solving a big enough problem.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah. So, okay. So then the problem might be someone might be watching and listening and saying, okay, so my problem's too small. Is it the way I'm saying that
It
problem?
could be that your problem is too small. I like to ask people, like we're starting at the very beginning, what are you really, really good at? So what if you
Yeah.
spent like more than 10,000 hours of expertise? So a lot of people call
Right.
themselves a thought leader, and this was an idea they had yesterday. That's
Right.
not a leader, right?
Right.
And what do you
Yeah.
still love to do? I think you and I are on the same
Yes.
page with this.
Yes.
There are things that I'm good at that I don't love doing anymore. So that's not a good way to build a business because you've got to have your heart and soul and passion in it. People will
Hmm.
feel that enthusiasm, or if you're resenting every minute you're doing it, that's not a good growth strategy. It'll undermine your health. But then the third question is, who is it worth the most to? So maybe
Mm-hmm.
the problem you're solving is big enough, but you're not solving it for the right people.
Right.
I think
Right.
you and I are on the same page because we both deal
Yes.
with affluent people. So if you solve the
Hmm.
same problem, X problem, for somebody who's got a very small business, it could be worth $1,000 to them. But if you solve the exact same problem for somebody who's running a multi-million dollar business, it could be worth $100,000 to them.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we need to solve problems at a profit, but we also need to pay attention to who are we solving those problems for, which leads me into what is the benefit of being a thought leader? I
Hmm.
have a very simple definition for a thought leader. A thought leader is somebody who broadcasts their ideas one to one, not one to one, but one to many.
Right. Right.
And so that's where the leverage is. It's in books, it's in podcasts, it's in YouTube channels. So if you can broadcast your ideas one to many, that's the beginning of being a thought leader. And then add to that, solve a problem for people that it's worth a lot to. And you have the makings, you have all the recipe that you need for a 6 or 7 or 8 figure business. Maybe you
Okay.
want to
Yeah.
add to that.
I love that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. The other thing people sometimes push back on, so I'd want to talk about it, is why 7 figures? So the subtitle of Turn Words into Wealth is, 7 ways to make 7 figures as a thought leader. So I want to share a vulnerable story back when I was very, very first business that I started with my husband. We started the business for the very logical, not so much, reason that we were madly in love and didn't want to work for the, corporations that we were working for.
Right.
So we started this business. He was a sailor and I studied economics, so I knew how to do market feasibility studies. So I thought I had a genius idea. In fact, I did have $1 million idea. But until I had the $1 million message, our business was floundering and we were about to fail. We'd put all the money that we had, which wasn't that much, into it. We'd maxed out our credit cards, but something wasn't working. And I would give my spiel. People would go, I know you're smart and you're excited about it, but it seems like too much bother to figure it out. And then I changed 7 words in our marketing and boom, we made $3 million in 1 week. We doubled our profit margins from 12% to 24%.
Wow.
So that was 7 words were with them. It was $1 million
Right.
message. So it really drove
Right.
home to me in my 20s was the first time this happened to me that a
Hmm.
really clever idea without the right message can flounder.
Yes. For
But
years. For
yeah,
years. People
for
can
years.
white knuckle it, right? They white
Yeah.
knuckle it until they're out of business.
Yeah,
And yeah.
exactly.
So, and I remember reading about this because, and I couldn't wait to tell you because my husband and I are both licensed captains for boating, right?
Oh, fantastic.
And so we're always boating, and our boat's called That's What She Said.
How appropriate.
I'm she, and because we have little hats that say it, and on the back it says she, and on the back of his it says captain, and I'm like, yeah. So who really is in charge, right? So you had a boating business is what you had,
Yeah.
and then you changed this, and I when I was reading about this too, I thought I kept while I was reading it, I'm like, why are they doing that? Why did they get a high ticket offer, right? Pulled together, and then boom, you were like, hey, let's just do this. How many words were they? 7 words.
7 words. Yeah.
5 weeks of sun, fun, and tax shelter. That's
That
the
was what
kicker.
worked. Yeah.
That's the kicker.
And that message you can hear in 5 weeks of sun, fun, and tax shelter. It's a bit like stand-up comedy because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't expect tax shelter to come at the end of 5 weeks of sun, fun, and boom, 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 tax shelter. Like what? And so
Yeah.
it got the tell me more. But the
Yes.
first way I explained it was more the logical way, the way that we're taught in university. You know, you
Right.
can buy a boat, you can put it in our charter fleet, we'll use it 90% business. You can have 33 and a third straight line depreciation, buy the half year rule for the first year and a 7% investment tax credit. By the time I said all of that, people had glazed over.
Right. Right. Because
But
I know, because we do that with one of our properties. We're like, and we have to be there 6 months in a day, 6 months in a day.
uh-huh. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 5 weeks in Sun Fun and Tax Shelter, that made $3 million
Yeah.
dollars in one week. At one point, we were just in our 20s. We had $1 million cash in our
Yeah.
bank account. We looked at each other and went, should we go to Cuba or something? But obviously
Right.
we didn't. But that's a lot of success for two young kids
To
with
handle.
one
Yeah.
kick-ass idea,
Yeah.
but it had to have the $1 million message. So that was the
Right.
first time I realized that the message really matters. And so what I want people who are watching or listening to this to think through is how much time are you spending working on your message? Because most entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders that I know are spending all their time doing their thing, improving their team, improving their systems, improving their product, maybe coming up with a new offer, but they're not really leaning into, hey, can I come up with 7 words that can make me 7 figures?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, I'm hoping you're going to be able to help me come up with that.
All right.
I spend an exorbitant of time on my message.
Yeah.
An exorbitant, almost to the point where I'm like, I'm just done. I'm done. I'm done. Everybody's told me do this, do that, do this. I like this. I like that. What resonates with me, what aligns. And I feel that this is what business owners go through. The silo of independence of entrepreneurship does this, where you're just rattling around in your own brain all the time. And you're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, when am I going to come up with something, that's going to solve the problem? Okay. So I want to go back just a little bit on a couple of questions. Or comments, what you were describing about what you love to do, what you're great at, and you said the third one was different than what I've heard before. What is the third one? What's the third
Who
one
is
again?
it worth the most to?
Who's it worth the most to? So this is interesting because you were describing the hedgehog theory, right? Which ends with the third leg of that stool is what will create profit, right?
Mm,
But I love how you've turned that into who do I want to serve, and will the people that I'm trying to serve and shining a light on, will they love this? Will they
yeah.
need this? Will they want this? Will they get results from it? So I love that. But I want to also go back just a little bit more. You had said something about the message, right? And I was saying, with the message or the problem, right, that they have. Could it be that someone's problem is too sophisticated for people and that their message needs to come back, not forward? Do you understand that concept?
Well,
Because
I
you
think
did
the
that with
example I
boating.
just gave,
Yeah, the
it was a
boating.
very sophisticated offer, but
Right.
you can't have a sophisticated message. You want the 5 weeks of sun, fun, and tax shelter, and then
Yeah.
tell me more.
Right.
The reason
Yeah.
we're basically, to back up, like we're not in the information age. We're in the
Right.
transformation age.
Yes.
So
Oh,
my
so
old way of
powerful.
thinking when I was in my 20s pitching this thing is I buried them with information. I gave people like a phone book size thing that explained all the tax code and had all kinds of Excel sheet projections depending on their marginal tax rate, how much, oh, too much
Oh
information.
my gosh. And I know that because I was in financial services. So I totally get that. Yeah.
And also the neuroscience,
Yeah.
when we give information, we actually
Mhm.
trigger the analyst brain, which always
Mhm.
has more questions and does not buy.
Right. That logical side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when it's just simple and easy to, put out there, it's much easier for people to comprehend and say, oh, now it's simple, son, fun. And I can tell that, that was your clientele, that affluent clientele,
Yeah.
because they were like, son, fun. Oh, yeah. And I need tax shelters. Right. Yeah.
Exactly
It's,
right.
it's so simple, but it's so,
Well,
I mean, it's
think of your
profound.
message as a waterfall. You don't need to solve all of the problems in the first go, but you need to
Right.
catch attention,
Yeah.
right? That's the key
Yeah.
thing. You got to get attention with the first message.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. So you talked about your first book, right? From heartbreak to happiness, an intimate diary of healing, right? And this is, and I know you were talking about this. In fact, I've got to connect you with a colleague of mine who's known as the happiness mentor,
Okay.
the happiness mentor. Um, What kind of grief, and I know it sounds like I'm asking a question that isn't in alignment with what we're talking about right now, but what kind of grief do we go through by letting go of things that we've held on so tightly in our business? Is there, well, here, I'll just say it this way. You know, one of my programs is called Hustle to Harmony, right? Harmony.
I like it.
And because people will stay in the hustle, like you were saying, they'll do the
Yeah.
things, right? They'll stay in the hustle for fear that if they want harmony, they won't make money.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what if you could have your cake and eat it too? What if you could go from hustle to harmony?
Yeah.
So, to me, when I was reading this, I was thinking, so how does this heartbreak to happiness, I know it was a pivot or a plot twist for you, but how does that apply to business? How do we, as business owners, go through a grieving process of all the hours, all the hard work, all the time, all the money, all the 50 different websites that everybody tells you it's going to cost you 15,000 because they didn't do it right. I got to start from the beginning. How do
Right.
we get through that as business owners?
That's a really great question, and not one I've ever been asked on a
Ooh.
podcast. So you get a gold star for asking a rare question. So I studied grief extensively. My husband died suddenly at the age of 30. He
Oh,
was
I'm so
33. I was 31.
oh,
Our son was 4.
oh
So
gosh.
it took me a while. I felt like Humpty Dumpty. I fell off the wall and I smashed into 1,000 pieces. But I had to put the pieces back together again because I had a 4-year-old son looking up at with
Right,
me, looking up at me with such trust.
right,
So
right.
what I learned is that in North America, we don't talk about death and we don't talk about loss and we don't talk about grief. And what that costs us is understanding how heavy the burden can be. So
Mhm.
most people suffer 5 to 8 years after a devastating loss, but it doesn't need to be a death.
Right,
It could be a
right.
death of your identity. It could even be
No.
a loss of your community. Like if you
Hmm.
had a successful business and then you
Hmm.
shut that one down, you've lost all those clients. That can be a loss of
Right,
community, loss
right.
of identity, loss of community, loss of a child, loss of a pet, even
Hmm.
loss of a home, loss
Hmm.
of hopes and dreams. Basically, that's
Right,
what grief is.
right.
It's the loss of hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
And in my experience, the best way to process grief, the only way out is through. So to actually acknowledge what you've lost and do a kind of a process. I wrote about this in detail in a book called Grief Relief in 30 Minutes, How to Go from Heartbreak to Happiness. So there's like a 5-step process of really
Hmm.
acknowledging the loss. And then if it's something in the past, you can only let it go. You can only forgive, accept, and let it go. When we are grieving, we're pushing against the universe saying it should be different. But no matter how much you push against reality, it's not going to change. You are going to
Hmm.
suffer.
Hmm.
The only way
Hmm.
through grief is gratitude, acceptance, forgiveness, and then focus on creating a great future
Hmm. Yeah. So as you're talking about grief, is it, you'd mentioned it takes 8 years to get through, I'm in year
on
3 of my
average.
dog dying, and I still can't talk about him without crying. I still
Hmm.
can't. It's crazy. And he was my fourth Maltese. And for whatever reason, he was the special one, right? And I know I'll see him in
Yeah.
heaven, and I'm not going to cry about this because, this is very tough. But are you asking people, you don't have, I get this, you don't have to wait 8 years, but are you telling them, get over it, look in the back window and get over it? Or is there a happy medium of, I get the acceptance and the forgiveness because it might be forgiving yourself for something, it might be forgiving other people. But how do you know as a business owner when it's time to be done with a program that doesn't work, with a message that doesn't land? How do you know when it's time? Where is that? The great book 3 Feet from Gold, that my dear friends wrote. Um, it's a fantastic book, and everyone's like, well, I'm still 3 feet, I'm still 3 feet, I'm still 3 feet, and yet others, let go too soon. So where's the happy medium? And are there identifiers? Are there anything that we could use in
Well,
our
there's two
business?
questions there, and they're both really valuable. So I'll address the first one. No, I'm not telling people just get over it.
Right.
Um,
I know you aren't.
and
I know you are. I set
and
it up
I
that way.
yeah, I think it's very helpful
Yeah.
to work with a coach who's got
Hmm.
expertise in this area. Look, so
Hmm.
or read the book Grief Relief in 30 Minutes. That's a fast way to start, but do a process like it's almost a sacred process. Like
Mhm.
grief is this side of your hand,
Oh,
and
okay.
love is this side.
Mm,
So you don't actually want to get over grief because that would
mhm.
mean getting over love. You don't
Right.
actually, so the whole wording of getting over grief is inaccurate in my experience. Um, you want to acknowledge the feelings that you're having and find some way to be happy or be present or be
Right.
fruitful. And so, for example, with my husband's death, or I've had other kinds of losses along the way, can you possibly turn that into fuel to create something? I created the Grief Coach Academy. I wrote several books about overcoming grief. I wanted to give back to other people who are grieving, but that actually was my path to healing. And here
Yeah,
we're
I
not
know when
talking about AI yet. But what was the other
right,
part of
right.
your question? Oh, how do you know when it's time to let go? Um, I challenge everybody to do this 90-day process. Every day, write something, even for 5 minutes in your journal.
Mhm.
Read something, even just for 5 minutes. And then once a week, review what you've read and what you've written. Make notes in the back of the book, like Lady
Yeah,
Jen
like I was
does.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you do that for 90 days consistently, you'll start to change. You'll start to listen to yourself and get wisdom. And
Mm,
so when I first time I did this process, I noticed this was a long time ago. I noticed I was understandably, moaning and bemoaning the fact that my husband had died.
mhm. Right,
So
right.
then
Reliving it every day.
you ask yourself the question,
Yeah.
is that something I can change?
Mhm.
No.
Right. You're always
So
going to mourn him. Mhm.
I need to accept it, forgive it, let it go, pray, ask for the grace of God, like whatever is congruent with your belief system. Exercising like a demon works too.
Right,
But if I'm complaining about something like, I don't know, my son hasn't done the dishes.
right.
Am I speaking up about it? Have I asked him to do the dishes? Like maybe there's something I'm tolerating. So there are
Yeah,
things that you may notice you're complaining about that you're tolerating. Take action on those. There be
yeah.
other things that you notice that it serves you to accept, forgive, move on. Maybe work with a
Yeah.
grief coach or another a
Mhm.
therapist. I don't
Yeah.
really recommend grief support groups at church because I found they support grief, not recovery. You don't want to
Right.
marinate in grief.
Right. Right.
And so
Right.
if you do this
Yeah.
90-day process and
Yeah.
you're asking the question and you sincerely want the answer, ask it to your higher self or the God of your understanding. Is this time for me to let go of this?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
find like I'm just guided by the energy of it. So if it feels very
Right,
heavy and
right.
it still feels heavy, one work can be heavy on certain days, but if it's feeling heavy for 90 days, it's probably time to let that go. And then
Yeah.
sometimes I have other things that feel light that I'm excited about, and I don't exactly know where the money is, like my YouTube channel, Strategic Basics, but I am having so much fun doing it. So I'm being led by that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you
And
have
sometimes
something
that
to add
happens.
to that?
No, no, that's all great. Yeah, I love that. And I set it up that way because I knew that's what you weren't going to be telling people. But I always have an angle for business, an
Yes,
angle for how do we do this in business? Because we do grieve.
we do.
I've grieved a program that I had, and I was like, why? Why didn't anybody else want it? Why? Right.
I've
And
grieved businesses that I've sold,
oh
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, that you're letting them go that day that you contact the state and go it's closed,
Yep.
for a reason, and you're closing your bank account, and like wow, and I remember
It's
it had all these
bittersweet.
great hopes and all of that. Okay, so thank you for answering that. I want to shift a little bit, and we're going to get into AI. We're going to start moving into AI. Um, One of the things that you have in your chapter, and in your book, and I love the hell and heaven thing. I've done that for many years. The hell,
Yeah.
like move from hands on to hands off, right?
Yeah,
Ooh,
that's
that's the
good.
heaven, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the things that you say in there is an example of how to introduce yourself. Now, lots of coaches are saying, here's the formula for your elevator speech. Here's the this, here's that. So I'm always interested in a new take on it, a new
Mm.
way to develop it that hopefully makes it easier for us to create our 7 words, right?
Yeah.
Our 7 words. So one of the things that you have in here is how to introduce yourself, and I know you know this, but do I need to? Yeah, because if I were to say to you, now I never ask anybody what you do. What do you do?
Hmm.
I because when someone asks me that, I say, you know what? Rather than asking what I do, could I tell you who I am? Would that be
Uh-huh.
okay? Because what do you do is like, well, what don't I do? That's what someone just told me just yesterday on the phone. She's like, what don't I do? And I know, I want to know what you do. What's the overlying thing that you do? So I love that you started off with, how.
Mm-hmm.
So give us an example. I'm sure you've got your own example or tons of examples. How you lose sleep at night. Give us some ideas on how to structure that so that the person is either saying that's me or that's not me, but I might know someone.
Right. So there's a bunch of different fill in the blank templates inside the book that you're referring to, Turn
Mm-hmm.
Words into Wealth. And this is one of them, a
Mm-hmm.
way to introduce yourself. So, but earlier I said, as entrepreneurs, we solve problems at a profit. So
Yes.
one of the really great ways of introducing yourself is to talk about the problem that you solve
Yeah.
and who you solve it for and what the benefit or result is.
Yeah.
So how people who are dealing with getting over selling their business may struggle with grief and sleepless nights and wondering if they did the right thing. Well, what I do is I help them reconnect with joy and purpose and build their next business. That would be an example.
Yeah. And you have it so laid out here. It's like, how who struggle with, well, that's what I do, or what I do is, and this is the result they get. I
Yeah.
love it. It's so simple and easy. Is that the first step in recalibrating a message to get to that 6 words? Or is it the 6 words that need to be identified first, and then this so-called elevator speech gets put behind it?
I think everything is a hologram. So start wherever you feel the most
Good answer.
attracted to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But most people go blah, blah, blah. When people say, what do? You need to know how to answer that
I
question.
know
And
it.
what I like about starting it with, how. So,
Uh-huh.
how people who are emerging thought leaders struggle to write a book, launch their YouTube channel, nail their message, and make a return on investment on all that. Well, that's what I actually do at Same Page Publishing. We launch thought leaders, and the result is all of our clients are best-selling, award-winning authors who have a business plan that fills their cup with joy, happiness, and income. So that would be
Yeah.
another example.
Right. And not just a book.
Right,
Right.
right. And
It's
which again refers back to the bigger the problem you can solve, the
right.
better, really. So I realized for myself at Same Page Publishing, people can go to one person to get help with their book, somebody else to get help launching their YouTube channel, somebody else to get help getting a best-selling,
Right.
book,
Status.
somebody
Yeah.
else for their message, somebody else for their business plan. Wouldn't it be cool if they can just go to one place and get launched as a thought leader, get that whole thing working together
Right. And get the
efficiently?
exposure and get that, yeah, the opportunities that are there. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Okay. So to each his own, right? And this is what business is about. It's, sand in the hand, like Greg Reed always says, is that when you go and you grab sand, some of it will go through your fingers and some of it you'll go, oh, that's brilliant, right? And
Yeah.
that's really what we've been talking about here is utilizing your own method. And I love that you said it's a hologram. It's like using your own method to either find the 5 or 7 words. I don't know why I keep saying 5. I think it's because it's fun. I keep the F is there. To have the seven
Can be
words,
five
or
words if you like.
yeah, maybe mine will be 5.
Maybe yours is five.
Right. Having those, 5 to 7 words, and then developing the story behind it, or vice versa. And then those
What I
words will pop out.
what I really like about learning how to introduce yourself is you can practice it a dozen times at your next, networking event, at your next Rotary Club or
Right.
Chamber of Commerce. I've even practiced pitching what I do in the grocery lineup when the person
Yeah.
behind me looks like friendly.
Yeah.
And they usually ask, "What do you do?" And I'll try different versions, and you can see when somebody glazes over.
Oh, yeah.
Also, when
Yeah.
you write it down, you tend to overwrite it and get
And you don't
too.
speak it the same way. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's the jumping ahead. That's one of the reasons when I help people create their message, we do it like this on video because
Yes.
people
Yes.
speak much more clearly than they write. And it's more
Yes.
their vibe, it's more their energy. And then we transcribe that, turn that into a
Yeah.
book or whatever the case may be.
I totally agree with that. One of the things that I share with my clients is I say, organize your words, right? Memorize your words, then customize your words, and then internalize them, right? That's the path for this. And people are like, why am I memorizing and then customizing? I said, because you're going to write it one way. And as you're memorizing it, you're going to go, why don't I don't say that? I might write that, but I don't say that. So now I'm going to customize. And
Hmm.
then I'll
It's
get to
nice.
the eternalization. So yeah, maybe that's a strategy. I don't have time to talk about this, but I really wanted to talk about your $100 million weekend. So I'm just going to tell everyone you have to get her book, and then you can find out about it, because there were pieces in there that I'm like, yep, done that, done that, done that. Ooh, that's new. But even if I had done, let's say I had done 60% of what I read in there, how come mine wasn't 100 million? Right.
Mm.
So you're going to have to read the book. You're going to have to figure it out. And I get to ask the question after we're done here today, which I'm excited about. Um, right. Okay. I want to definitely shift into AI. And there's so many people that have come up with new acronyms for AI, like actual interaction,
Hmm.
right? Instead of automation, right? And I don't even know what AI stands for anymore, because yeah,
Artificial intelligence, I
artificial
think.
intelligence. Yeah, I'm like, oh, I don't even know. But I love that you talk about human assets, because this is something that, as a leadership coach, and I help people, build teams and management and everything, I'm always talking about the human assets, right, in there. So we're going to start at the top again here. What is your take on what's happening right now as we're recording this? Because this is 2026. We're almost to the halfway mark in the year. And it seems like the rate of expansion in
Hmm.
AI is really accelerating. And at the same time, there are reports and studies that are counterintuitive to it, saying we're still not using it. Now, is it an adoption issue? Right? There's a lot of incumbent businesses that will go, yeah, it'll be like what is the World Wide Web? What is that? Right? When Jane Curtin, I keep saying Jane Curtin, but anyway, when she asked that question, is what's the high level that you're seeing now, and that is great, and what is it that concerns you about the high level? Because I know that will get us into the human connection part of this discussion.
Well, to start from the highest level, as that Chinese character goes, where there is danger, there is opportunity. So,
Mm,
as business
okay.
owners, now is a
Mm-hmm.
time of great change, which
Mm-hmm.
means danger plus opportunity. So,
Right.
this is not the time to be snoozing and just running
Right.
on autopilot. This is the time to really be paying attention and maybe playing with some things and finding out what they can do. And one of the key things I want to tell people about today is you have superpowers as a human being. And when you build your brand based on those superpowers, then use AI to scale it, to broadcast it, to, I don't know, spell check it. That's going to be the recipe for success. But if you change the order so that the AI is the master, you are
Yes.
most likely going to produce drivel, which will sound like everybody else's drivel. It'll sound the same. And that means you don't have a brand. That means you've destroyed the value of your brand. And in
Yeah.
2026 and beyond, your brand is one of your most valuable assets. And a brand is something that is distinct by very nature. A brand is not the same as everybody else. And I think now
Right.
more than ever before, we have to be very careful to get out of the middle of the market. The
Yeah.
middle of the market is being destroyed by AI. You don't want to be competing on price or speed with
Right.
AI or China,
Right.
and the middle of
Right.
the market is being scrunched. So
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
think through how can you position yourself as a luxury brand? And luxury could be high priced, but not necessarily. But I think there's four human superpowers to lean
Yep.
into, which I've gone into a bunch of examples and
Yep.
turn words into wealth. And I have more videos on strategic basics that give some
Yeah.
examples. And I can go into those
Your
four human
stories.
superpowers because I think we should all be collecting them. Yeah, the first one
Right. Right. Your
is your
stories.
story.
Right. Right. Your story that's unique to you. And, we talk about this all the time. And I know, well, I say I talk about it all the time. For years and years, I wore armor, and I didn't want to tell
Ah.
my story because I came from a family that I was embarrassed about, right? Ashamed about. And I didn't want to tell my story. So I kept that armor. And yet I was going, I'm fighting a battle every day, and I'm exhausted every day, until one day when I did share my story. And I thought, what are they going to think?
Mm-hmm.
Will they stop working with me? How come I never shared this? Was that perceived as being deceitful and lying because I didn't say, the saying of it's better to say nothing at all, right? And I walked off stage, and everyone came to me, my God, and they were crying and like, that's my story. And oh my gosh, I didn't know this about you. And I thought, wait a minute. So if I like poke holes in my armor, not take it off, but poke holes in it, and my brilliance shines through and I'm authentic, it will actually attract people.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm onto something, right?
Yes, exactly. You're on something.
So, in your stories, and I'm sure you have a framework for stories as well. We won't go into that today, but in your stories, what is the most pertinent piece of a story from your perspective? Is it because we all know it's a hero's journey and all that? Is it, do you have to have some traumatic something in order to tell a good story? Or is there something else that's magical in telling a good story?
Well, my background's in film and television. So, yes, it's the hero's journey. But, like you said, you don't have to take your armor off completely, but you do need to
Mm.
poke holes in it. The reason is simply to understand if you've got a hero and he needs to slay the dragon, if the hero arrives wearing his armor, picks up the sword, and chops the head off the dragon, that's not a story.
That's just doing.
And it's not a hero.
Yeah, yeah.
So, no struggle, no
Mm,
obstacles,
mhm,
no problems,
mhm.
no
Yeah,
setbacks, no story, and no hero.
right.
So, the most important part of the story is to have at least three obstacles that you're overcoming.
Right.
This is a chance for the audience to connect with you, or your readers or listeners or
Hmm.
watchers to connect with you. From a strategic point of view, as a business owner, the most important part of your story is the turning point.
Right. Yeah.
And so the turning point can be something that you sell or the transformation that you provide to your clients. So
Hmm.
if we were thinking more Indiana Jones, that's the Holy Grail. And
Yeah.
you first overcome the Holy Grail for yourself, and then you bring it back to bless the world or bless the community. So when you tell the story, it could be your story or it could be the story of your clients or patients, people that you have
Hmm.
helped. You want to have a series of stories, or at least one, but preferably several stories that point to that turning point.
Hmm.
So one
Yeah.
example
Yeah.
could be for me, I've wanted to write books since I was 9 years old. I fell in love with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I wrote my first book when I was 9, but I only got, one chapter illustrated. But ever since then, I've been trying to write books and make a difference. And I wrote many screenplays, many books, but I struggled. Like I published a book, didn't have any reviews, didn't have any sales. What am I
Right.
doing wrong? And
Yeah.
until I really figured out how to launch as a thought leader, I struggled.
Hmm.
But when I figured out all the 9 steps in launching as a thought leader, then everything worked for me. My books launched to bestseller status, they got reviews, they got read, they made a difference. I launched my YouTube channel, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the turning point. And
Right.
now I help others do the same. So
Right.
that's
Right.
the first time I've actually told that story. So it was a bit rough, but you can
Yeah. That's
see
okay. Yeah.
you can see the structure underneath
Yes.
it.
Yeah. 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 And I think a lot of people fall away from that. They're like, so I was verbally abused or I was physically abused. And now today, I help people with AI. There's no connection,
Right. There's no connection.
right?
Yeah.
There's absolutely no connection to that story. I love that you're saying lay this out and into that, that piece of it.
And you
Yeah, I
can
think
even
that's great.
back into it by just imagining, well, what were the struggles that you went through on your path to figuring the thing out that you figured out?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
what do your typical clients, what are the 3 problems that they bring to you? So
Yeah.
that's a clue for one
Hmm.
way to structure that story.
Yeah.
But what's
Yeah.
really cool about a hero solves the problem first for himself. He slays
And
the
then,
dragon before
yeah.
he's killed, but then
Hmm.
he or she brings the Holy Grail back to help others. And that's
Yeah.
what we do as business people. We solve problems, figure it out ourselves first, and then we help others. So you can definitely
Right.
structure the story in that structure, the hero's journey structure.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. I got it. I'm taking notes. That's why you're seeing me do this. I always take notes because you know what's going to happen. And yes, I could listen to this whole thing again, but I'm trying to pull out your sound bites. I'm trying to pull out all the beautiful pieces that you have it in here. Yeah, I love it. I mean, and that's why it's hustle to harmony because
Hmm.
that was my struggle, right? Until that
That's
one
good.
day when I said enough is enough, and then I set out on this journey and I solved it. And and I don't believe that success has a key. I believe it's a combination lock, and it was finding the combination, and that's the
Yeah.
obstacle, right?
Yeah.
Like this works, that doesn't, this works, and this is something that as business owners we're doing all the time, right?
Yeah.
So I love that you said, don't let AI be the master. Your brand is distinct. Get out of the middle market. You said a lot of things in there, but I love the part about not letting it be the master. So this leads me to the question I said, let's help us remember. Right, the question. So there's a feature in Chat GPT, for example, that allows for you to keep all of your data private and not out
Mm-hmm.
in the market. And then the
Mm-hmm.
feature, you can turn it on and have it all be there. Uh, I have an opinion on this, and I'm sure you do as well, but I'd like to hear both sides of this. As someone who's listening and they're saying, but that's my IP, that's my expertise. I don't want to share it with the rest of the world. I want chat to learn me, uh, versus I want to be found in chat.
Mm.
Okay, so where's the fine line? What's your perspective on this?
Well, it's the first time anybody's asked me that question
Okay,
also.
2 stars.
Well, I'll tell a little story. Back in the day when I was working as a vice president of a film and television production company in Hollywood, California, first-time authors would come to me or first-time screenwriters would come to me and they'd want to pitch their idea and also keep it secret.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, yeah, you can't really do that.
Yeah, that reminds me of a mine, right? Where they're doing the thing. Like it's I want this, but I want that. And I want this, but I want that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I came to really see that that was a sure indicator of a rookie who didn't know the ropes, but
Hmm.
also that actually ideas are worthless without
Unless they're implemented.
execution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody could have pitched me the idea for Indiana Jones, which is a great movie, a whole series, it was blockbuster. But if they didn't know how to pull it off, it was worth nothing.
Right. Every
So
movie would be like that. Yeah.
every movie, every business idea would be like that. I think the days of privacy are long gone. I was watching the demonstration in London on the weekend, May 16th, I guess it was. Nick Shirley was covering it. And, there's digital cameras everywhere with face recognition. Sorry,
Hmm.
we're living in George Orwell's
Hmm.
1984 in some
Hmm.
ways. So
Hmm.
I would like to change that, but that's not something inside of my control. So I think what is going to help us keep sane is to lean into knowing that we are unique and special and that it's not the idea or the word itself that has value, but our particular implementation of it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so strong. And so, again, like putting into Chat GPT your brilliance, your 10,000 hours to make you an expert, having it learn all of that, right, is the powerful thing to do first, not recreate, not create you in a new realm.
Yeah.
And the way and where this is coming from is because in the green room, you and I were talking about this, pandemic, it was pivot, and now I'm feeling revamp, reset, renovate, all the words, right? Redo. All of those pieces are now being done because we jumped. Some people, I've been involved in AI for almost 8 years. A lot of people think it's just new, but jumped into AI and said, well, you do all the work for me. You be my thinker. And it's just easier. I get that. And then I'll massage it 20%. But what I've learned, like you said, right? My son did an analysis for me on my funnels, which are my
Hmm.
not fun thing. So it's not, I don't like to do it. I'm not great at it, right?
Right.
I don't want to do funnels. I don't help anybody do funnels because I have my own challenges with funnels, right? Right. And he laughed at me. He has a $400 million business. He laughed at me and said, don't you see it? And I was like, no, what is it? What is wrong with these things? And he goes, because your brand is luxury, your brand is premier, your brand is elite, affluent, and your emails are like a kindergartner.
Mismatch.
A total mismatch. But I didn't see it because I
Mm,
was so excited that I had something that could make the funnels for me that I didn't have to write them.
right. Yeah.
So now I'm going back and still using AI and say, hey, write this, use my language, use my style, use everything. But now instead of 80% trust in AI and 20% trust in me, I flip that. Thank
Exactly
you for
right.
the idea. Oh, I have a story behind it. Thank you
Yeah,
for the idea,
your ad,
right?
your stories, your brand, your flavor, your
Yeah.
perspective, your style. Well, I like to say that AI is a tool like a basketball.
Hmm.
So if you give a basketball to a great basketball player, it could be worth $1 million or even $1 billion. Give me a basketball, it's worth a sprained ankle. And I
Yeah.
think that's how we need to think about AI, especially the
Mhm.
things that we don't
That's
like to
it.
do or we don't have a lot of
Hmm.
mastery. We need to be very careful about when we use AI in those conditions
Yeah.
because we're very
Yeah.
likely to be persuaded by its overconfidence.
Hmm.
I've written 10 books, you've written a bunch of books too. I know when AI is suggesting something that's lame. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no,
Yeah.
that's totally a lame idea.
Oh, and I've
But
told it too. I've gone, no, you're way off. Let's try that again.
yeah,
Please.
but it says things with such confidence. So be careful when you're using AI outside of your area of expertise, but it can be a great tool within your area of expertise.
Hmm.
And then handle with care outside of your area of expertise. Anyway, your
Yeah.
four human superpowers, your stories and the
Yep.
stories of people whose lives you transformed.
Yes.
Your style, your aesthetic, your sense of beauty. You have a
Hmm.
vibe, you have got a luxury vibe. That's part of your brand.
Hmm.
Your presence, you connected with people at the event in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago. We almost connected there, but now we're connecting here.
Yes.
And even though it's not in person, it's equivalent to in person because it's real time, live interaction, speaking, having coffee with somebody. Your presence, AI cannot replicate. So
Right.
notice that those things are really valuable and those deserve a premium price for sure. And then your fourth human superpower, we'll have a bonus one, is how you transform other people.
Yeah.
So
You're
I like to call
crucial.
that coaching. You could call it leadership, but
Hmm.
seeing greatness in others and calling it forth, that is something uniquely human. And a great coach asks powerful questions and then waits for the person to come up with the answer. It's the exact opposite to what we do with AI. We ask AI questions and then we wait passively and it gives us back an answer, which is going to make
Right.
us stupider over time. A
Right.
great coach uses the Socratic method. And when the
Yes.
person has that aha, it actually makes new neural connections in their brain. That
Hmm.
eureka moment or that aha moment is new brainwave, new neural connections in your brain. So lean into that. And then there's one more thing, but what do you want to comment on those four human superpowers? AI can never challenge you on those. So lean into those and use AI for other things.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And as and so someone who's listening and they say, well, I'm not a coach, right? But you are a coach, you are a
Yeah.
consultant, you are a leader, you are a mentor to your employees, to your vendors who you're consulting with and delegating, right? Delegating things too. So I know a lot of people, say, well, I'm not a business owner, I'm a solopreneur. No, you're a business owner. I have news
Yeah.
for you, right? And it is a play on words. It's very interesting about that. And thank you for sharing your insights on that. Again, what I've taken most out of that is that I need to still be my brand in AI and don't let AI take over. Don't
Exactly right.
let AI be that master. Use it, but don't abuse it.
Yeah.
Right.
It can kill your brand and it's
Well,
the
yeah, and
most
that's what I'm
valuable
worried
thing.
about now. So that's why I did my reset. And in fact, that's why in June and July, I'm not doing any of my podcasts.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not doing any. I cease and desist on all my podcasts. I said, do we have enough? And they're like, yep, we got a good bank of podcasts. So I go, I'm done. I'm done in June, July, and I'm focusing on moving my elementary communication to what it should be and how I would normally communicate.
Ah, okay. So your reset's going to be rewriting all the funnel emails.
Yep.
What else?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm going to be doing. Oh, there's a lot of stuff I'm doing. There's a lot of stuff I'm doing. Yeah. I'm doing, there's a lot of things that I'm doing, but I'm not going to let you interview me. This is about you.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I really want to touch upon is your
Yeah, I
massively
was just going to ask you,
transformative
what
purpose.
else do you want to do? Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's what is your massively transformative purpose? Because that's another
Mhm.
thing that AI can never challenge or replicate. So, who do you want to be remembered as? What do you want on your
Mhm.
tombstone? What do you want people to
Right.
say about you at your funeral? what is the difference that you want your life to make on this world? So I'm really inspired by Buckminster Fuller, and he's a great example. Um, he raised a bunch of money from friends and family to start a business. The business went bust. He felt horrible about losing the money of his friends and family, many of whom were kind of annoyed about that. And then his baby daughter died.
Oh, yeah.
So he was suicidal, and he thought the world would be better without him on it. And then he recounts that he heard a voice, and the voice basically told him that he didn't have the right to take his own life because it didn't belong to him.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
that was like a
Yes.
bizarre moment for him. And Buckminster Fuller decided that in that case, he would do everything he could to make his one life really matter. And this was in the 1950s. When he went on to have dozens of patents, dozens of books. He created the geodesic dome, which really solved low-cost housing. He was speaking even 2 weeks before he died. He died in his 80s. And he earned over $1 million in the 1950s, which is, I don't know, 10 million or
Who
something
knows?
into
Yeah. Yeah.
today's dollars. But he set out to make a difference, not to make money.
Hmm.
So, what is your massively transformative purpose? I actually want you to answer that in a second if you want to, but
Oh,
also as you are thinking about your business and who you
yeah.
want to be, in addition to those four human superpowers, when you connect deeply to your
Mhm.
massively transformative purpose and the difference you want to make in the world, AI cannot threaten that. And when you broadcast that all the time, you're going to be building a super valuable brand. So when I got my MBA in 2015, I was like, what can I do? I could work for Netflix. I could start this business. I could start another business. I could live anywhere in the world. I had too many options. And I prayed for guidance and thought, or realized, I guess, discovered through a journaling process that the most useful thing for this little cog of a human being on the great machinery of planet Earth to do at this moment was to launch thought leaders because I'm obsessed with communication and I
Mhm.
also love seeing the gold in other people and their businesses. And it's easy and natural for me to call that forth. So if I can help people who are up to something be up to a bigger something, help them make 100 times or 10,000 times the difference from what they're already making, then that is a worthwhile life mission for me.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love that. It was funny. I told you before, I said, I'm a, oh, I don't know what it is now where I know where things are written, right?
Yeah.
What
Photographic memory.
photographic memory. Thank you very much. Yeah. And I immediately just pulled this out as you were saying. I know that's written here. A colleague of mine last week said, if you chase impact, income will come.
Yeah, it's good.
And
That's
that's
good.
exactly what you were talking about. If we chase the impact, we chase and it's not the impact for, someone else said this this morning to me, not to me, but in a meeting that we're in, saying that the titles are for go, right? Not for show.
Hmm.
Titles are for go and not for show. And so when we're focusing on impact, it's not for show
Hmm.
because otherwise your purpose is too superficial. It's just skimming the
Yeah.
surface, right? So if you're chasing impact for show and not for go, then you really don't have your purpose.
And when you're really rooted in your purpose, you stand firm. Nothing can
Mhm. Oh
shake
yeah,
you because
non-negotiable.
you know who you are, you know what you're about, you know what your purpose is. And the winds
Mhm.
may buffet you, but you will stand firm.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's like riding a bike. If you've ever watched the guys, riding the bicycles, the racers and stuff, they're
Hmm.
always this. Their
Hmm.
bike may be this, they're trying to get up the hill and their bike does that, but they stay the course.
Right. Stay the course. That's
And
good.
so no matter what's happening with that bike trying to get up that hill and you're dog tired, right? You're still staying on. As soon as you start doing this, and you for those of aren't watching, I'm swaying back and forth. As soon as you start swaying with the wind, that's when you lose that course, right? And it's boating. That beacon, right? That beacon is not there. And lighthouse is not there for you to follow because you're just going with the wind. And yeah, so purpose is really, really important.
Well,
Yeah.
you and I both like sailing.
Yes.
So I think running a business is very much like sailing.
Yeah.
Your massively transformative purpose is where are you going? What's
Hmm.
the final destination? But when you're sailing, you want to know what the winds are doing, what the currents are doing, and you adapt. You change
Yeah.
course, you tack or you
Mhm.
jibe, to catch the wind. Another boat may come along and blanket you. You've got to get out of that dirty air. That's what the day to day of an entrepreneur's life is like. It's like, where's the
Yeah.
opportunity? Where is the boat or another business blanketing me? I need to get out of that. Or where do I get a lift, an advantage? So right
Hmm.
now, AI is a lift.
Yeah.
It could be a lift if you use it wisely, but it can also be an anchor if you use it to destroy your brand. So don't use it to
Yeah.
destroy your brand.
Yeah. Well, like you said, where there's danger, there is opportunity, right? So when
Yeah,
so you're coming up on another boat and you're like, okay, is it danger or opportunity, right? We're always assessing what that is. I think
exactly right.
yeah, I think that's brilliant. I love the way that you describe all of this because, of course I've heard some things similar. It's not, we all have different uses of words. I can talk about leadership, you can talk, and we all just have a different way of explaining it, but it's how it's landing for me is just it's super, Aurora. Thank you so much
I'm
for
glad.
all of this great stuff. And for your book again, words turn words into wealth, 7 ways to make 7 figures as a thought leader. Fantastic book. We're going to have the link for everybody so they can check that out among all the other links that you've provided to us so that they can connect with you. Some words of wisdom, a quote, a book, a thought. What's on your heart right now that you'd like to leave for our audience?
Hmm. So many different competing things.
Yes, I know.
Um, I want to let people know that your stories really matter. I think that's the only thing we really have to give other people that's precious
Mhm.
is your story. Your things that you're hiding, your things that you've overcome, your things that you're overcoming. These can help and inspire somebody. And the way that as human beings we have survived or even thrived over millennia was because we didn't make all of the mistakes ourselves. We used our
Mhm.
thinking, and most of all, we used stories to go, okay, avoid that pit of vipers or avoid that. There's going to be trouble. I mean, it's amazing that the Bible has survived for 2,000 some odd years. It's because there's wisdom in stories. So
Mhm.
when you lean into your stories and share them with others, don't think this is a trivial gift you are offering others. You could be saving somebody's life, saving somebody's marriage, saving somebody's business. So I really encourage you to get over your perfectionism or get over your shyness and just start sharing your stories.
Yeah, that's so eloquently said. Thank you very much. Because I usually say, how dare you not share your expertise, your uniqueness with the world? They're waiting for it.
That's good. That's
Right?
good. We're on the same page for
It's the
sure.
same thing, right? It's the same thing. What's the best way for people to connect with you? You've given me quite a few ways for people to connect, but what is the best way?
The best way for people to connect if they want to know more is go to my website, samepagepublishing.com. There's a bunch of free resources there. You can sign up for a business breakthrough call there for free. It's at bookcall.biz if you want to explore working together. If you do that, it's free, but be sure to say that you came from Lady Jen and I'll give you a little extra something something to take care of you.
Good.
But
Yay.
Same Page Publishing has got resources. Also, you can get the book Turn Words into Wealth for free
Yeah.
at samepagepublishing.com. You get the
Good.
ebook, but you can get the print book and the audiobook wherever
Yeah.
books are sold.
We like books,
Yeah,
right?
we
You and
like
I,
book
we've
books.
decided, I'm very techie. I have no paper on my desk, but I love chicken scratching in books. I just
Yeah,
do. I absolutely love it.
especially a book that's got lots of ideas. You want to yellow
Yeah.
highlight it and write
Yes.
notes. Yeah.
I've done the whole thing. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you're not the only one who yellow highlights and dog ears turn words into
Yeah.
wealth, and that makes me so happy.
Yes, isn't it great? Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a great workbook. I look at it as a workbook. I'm going, okay, so what other things could I do in here? So thank you for bringing that to the world. I think that's absolutely wonderful. It's been a pleasure having you here today, Aurora. Pleasure getting to know you. I know this is just the beginning for us in our relationship. And, for those of you that are listening, I hope you got something out of this. I trust that you did. And, it means going over and giving us a great vibe and writing a review, not about the podcast, but about what you learned from Aurora here on this episode. We really appreciate those opportunities. And again, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll find 5 podcasts and shows over there. So you can listen to anything you want to. Any last parting words, Aurora, before we
No,
hang
just
up?
thank you, Lady Jen. This was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And we will see you on the next episode of Business on the Vine. Until then, take care. Thank you for joining us on Business on the Vine. If you found value in today's conversation and would like additional support, go to supportfromjen.com. Remember, the best ideas are always discovered on the Vine. So keep innovating, stay inspired, and continue to grow.